Hi, it's Sharon. I know Jim Morrison wants to speak, and I can't relay what he wants to say in any other way than just simply letting him use my voice. So, I'm going to let you speak to Jim Morrison. I'm Jim. Lots has been wrote about me. The 27th Club will never end. And maybe there's a few things that I personally want to sort out and talk about myself. I will admit I was a very complicated human being. There's no doubt. I didn't think so at the time. I thought I was just me. And the things that kind of turned me on was thinking. Also, my big passion, my love, the thing that really kind of, no matter what was happening around me, kept me going, was my writing. I really admired really good poetry. Life in the 60s was explosive. In the 50s, growing up, I found that in the home I came from, it was very regimented. And for a lot of people, that regimentality was fine and it worked. For me, it was everything I hated. I was just rebellious. And I was rebellious in a quiet way at that time. I got up when I wanted, on time, before the rest of the family got up. I got out of the house fast. And then in my day, whatever was going on was personal to me. So in that way, that was how I rebelled. I was very shy at school. I will be honest, I think I was very shy at college and university as well. And it didn't bother me because I really was a person who kept very much to themselves. I had a few close friends. And even then, I wouldn't say they really got to know me. They got to know parts of me. And then I went to film school. And again, I knocked around with my own crowd. But a large part of the time, I also just kept to myself. But I was a person who loved to explore. And I loved to observe. And that was anything, any type of observation. The observation of people I find fascinating. Observation of a subject. If I was into it, I was 100% into it. Not 75 or 90. I was right there. And I read a lot. So you had the Vietnam War going on, which, personally speaking, I did not agree with. And I was not going out to die for any country. I just disagreed with it entirely. So there were certain things going on at that time, and then suddenly, at the same time, parallel, was this freedom movement, right? You had love on the streets. Everybody wanted freedom. It was just a fantastic, and it really was a fantastic time. It's time that, unless you were there, you would have no idea the type of freedom and the way people were living. Not everyone, but where I was, well, the way we were living. People knew people, they got to know a person one night, right? Maybe they'd never see them again. But in that one night, they would get to know them. And I don't mean sexually, I mean as a person. there was this openness. It was wonderful. Genuinely, it really was wonderful. There was also a part of me that was, give me a dare, and I am so happy to dare myself to do what you want me to, or I dare you. And that was the ultimate freedom for me, was just to simply do things, to have an experience. My whole life was simply based on having experiences. And I think where other people are slightly different, and this is just looking back, was other people, although they'll have maybe a dare or something like that, or they want to experience things, they have like a law for themselves that they'll go this far, but not further. And that's where I would have been very different. There was no too far. There was no such thing as being too much, too out there, too unstructured. The more unstructured, the more difficult the dare, the more freedom there was for me. And so that's the way I live my life, from one day to the next. And also, I will say, it seems as if I didn't take life seriously. I would think, and I would say, I think a lot of my peers really thought I didn't take life seriously. And the thing was, I took life very seriously. I didn't make stupid mistakes. I didn't sign up to stupid agreements. So in that sense, I was cautious, because that could have lost me the ultimate, which was my freedom. So in one sense, you have me as a person who could be very serious and take life very seriously and look at the world and view it in a very, very, very serious fashion. And it's not that I didn't view the world. I really did look at the world in depth. And I made my decisions on what I thought about certain things. The same ways it never made sense to me. And it's not to take away from anyone who had to go or who went to Vietnam. But I wasn't going to go and fight a war. Why would I do that? Why would you do that to another human being? To kill another human being? That was a very serious thing to me. And it was something I was not going to indulge in. There was going to be no engagement in that. No, absolutely not. Alcohol played a part. Alcohol played a very large part. Especially after we'd really made the first album, moving into the second album. I had taken drugs and I had enjoyed them. They were good. I had great experiences on some of them. Needles? No way. I wouldn't touch a needle. That I would have feared. I hated needles. The idea of someone putting a needle in your arm? Not going to happen. No way. But cocaine? No problem. I wouldn't say I was a lover of it. I enjoyed pot. But the thing was, to me, it was a very degrading type of thing. You had to go and you had to meet someone who was going to supply you with something. What sort of freedom was in that? There was no freedom in that. You were dependent upon someone else to supply you with something. that was going to give you another experience. But having said that, life was fun, it was good, it was full of experiences. And then you hit a point where you go, this is not what I want to do anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the idiot on the stage for people any longer. It's not who I am. It's not what I am anymore. But by that stage, and this perhaps was my own real stupidity, that was where I'd lost my freedom probably 3 years before, which was by becoming an alcoholic. I was addicted to alcohol. It made me feel good. I don't know why it made me feel good. It just made me feel good. It kind of blurred out a lot of stuff maybe I just didn't want to face. Also, I didn't like the person that I was becoming. And I could see right in front of myself the person that I was becoming and had become. So, I moved to Paris, and I moved with Pamela. Pamela was a constant with me. There was lots of women, but there really only was one Pamela. And we fought, as all couples do. And we tortured each other, as all couples do. Pam would be out in the town with some guy because it would fall night. You can be sure I'd have been out in the town the next night with 2 girls, just to let her see it could be done. That's really stupid, really unintelligent, and really, when I think back, so below what I'd been at, say, 18, so below it. But we moved to Paris, and there's been a lot of speculation around my death. It was an overdose, it was this, it was a murder, some dealer had done me. There has been so much said. The fact is, one of the things that I had overlooked is, and it did take place also in Paris, I wasn't really feeling too great before I went, probably for at least 6 months. There was a thing in my chest that was irritating. And I'd seen a doctor. I'd seen a doctor in the US. And he said I was fine. So I was fine. And then in Paris, it seemed to tighten. It seemed to get a grip on me. And it was difficult for me. And I was coughing up blood. So on the day of my death, I knew I wasn't feeling well. Getting my breath was difficult. Coughing. We went to the cinema that night. And I will be honest, I must have been pretty tired because I do remember falling asleep halfway through the film and waking up towards the end. We went back to our flat. We had something to eat on the way home. I had been drinking during the day. Well, it was not unusual. That would be the way it would be. Pam didn't take a lot of notice of that. Unfortunately, one of the things that I kind of always did blame myself for with Pamela was, although I didn't give her drugs to start with, being around me, she was involved in her own world of people, and perhaps people she shouldn't have been around. And I never said stop. I believed it was her freedom, it was her choice. She could do what she wanted to do. And sadly, she became addicted to heroin. But on the night of my death, I just remember thinking, I don't feel well. hadn't felt well all day. I didn't feel well. And Pam had gone to bed. And I'd been sick. And she got up and she was very helpful. And I said, I'm going to have a bath. I really want to have a bath. I just need something to calm myself down. And basically, the water felt, it's going to sound very strange, but it felt like a baby in the womb. And I was a perceptive person. So I should have known that death was very, very close. And I didn't. And the last thing I can remember was just lying back and just really relaxing in a really, I don't know what you would call it, a really mellow way, as if you were being held by something. And that was the end of my life at 27. What I really wanted from life and what I got from life was numerous experiences. I had no respect for money. I didn't want money. It's the last thing that interested me at all. Books fascinated me. Poetry. I was in love with poetry. And at the end of the day, I did get some of my poems published. And that I took great pride in. But I had actually made myself into this thing, this crazy person on stage, trying to show other people how to become free. And that was for me okay. I really thought that people could take that freedom and run with it and do something with it. But the thing was, they didn't. They simply watched what they would say a madman on stage. And I was not a madman. I knew what freedom was. I knew what I wanted from my own freedom. So I'll never reject that notion. To me, freedom was the ultimate goal. It was the most worthwhile goal. It was the goal that I was willing to chase to the grave. And yes, people will say, dying at 27, dreadful, too young, what a waste. But I will be honest with you, I lived a full life. I don't believe I left anything behind me that I would have wished to stay for. Leaving Pam, very difficult. Very difficult in the days that passed, looking and watching her, trying to get over my death. And eventually dying within a few years of my death herself. But on the overall view of life, I would honestly say I lived my life my way. And it's like that song, and I'm not a fan, I did it my way. It's not like that. What I mean by living my life my way was, if you come from a regimented background, which is still loving, but there is a regimentality to it, and you're rebelling against that regimentality for many, many years. And to me, the easiest way to do it was subtly to begin with, quietly. It wasn't even noticed in my home. Then, late 50s, early 60s, yes, that's where you broke out. That's where you went for freedom. Complete freedom, right in your fist, right in your hand. And I really loved it. So, would another year have given me anything better? I don't think so. I don't feel it would. I feel as if I had put an entire lifetime into those 27 years. And I bless you all, really. And I really hope that anyone who's in pain gets relief. I hope anyone who basically doesn't know where they're going finds their way. I don't want people to follow my freedom anymore. I want people to be themselves. Because that's really what I was doing. I was just being myself. But the snake can turn, and it turned on me. I had stopped being myself to get other people to free their thinking. And that's where things were lost in me. But if you give me my life again, there is not one thing I would do differently. Not one thing. I believe that I was a very honourable human being. I didn't like lying to people. If I give you my word, it meant something. Those were two very serious things to me, things that I took serious. Other things that other people concern themselves with, what are we making this year? What are we paying on taxes? I didn't care. I didn't give a damn about any of that. What I cared about was having my freedom, living life my way until the point, and I didn't see it happening, and I don't think you do see it happening, where the worm turned and I wasn't living my life for me anymore. And that's why I thought I could start fresh in Paris. But my health was not good enough to carry me through. I never want to come back to your world again. It's beautiful and I want you to thoroughly enjoy it. And live every day and have a wonderful life. Have a great time. Enjoy, experience, feel, touch, be. Be kind. But I will never be back again. People talk about reincarnation. No, not for me. I don't want to be reincarnated. You do have choice. And that's the choice I've made. And there was no conspiracy. There was a file on me. I know that. But at the end of the day, there was no conspiracy theory. I died of natural causes, brought around by an illness in childhood that reoccurred later in years. I was completely unaware of it. Doctors were completely unaware of it. But alcohol, that was the killer. That's what took my life. And very often doing things just for the experience, just for the dare, took its toll. So be careful of your health. Live your life and love your life. And be proud of the life you live. So, this is Jim Morrison. I'm just going to say goodbye because there's nothing else to say. And at the end of the day, when you're on this side of the fence, you're going to know life is always worth living and enjoying.